All right, hey everybody, welcome to my first paid course. So if you're here, you actually paid for this, and I thank you for that and the support of everything we're trying to do here at Skip Film School. If you haven't, make sure to go to the stampede.net/store to get your Skip Film School shirts. Join the crew. Join the crew. It's going to be awesome. But yeah, thank you for joining this. This course is going to be around the concept of development. And so, a little intro to that is for the last probably 3 or 4 years now, I've been specifically working with a company called Reserve Entertainment and its founder and producer Darren Mormon in creating and developing scripts and really just tracking scripts, stories, script coverage, things that they're currently working on, things that are just coming across their desk. And as you will notice, we have basically this is kind of broken up in a couple different ways, but it's going to be broken up in this intro. Then we're going to do a case study on a project that I took through development for about 6 years to try to get made. Almost got it off the ground. And then I'm also going to take you through kind of what I was doing with Reserve Entertainment, kind of behind the scenes there. One of the things that'll come with that course is actually a free downloadable development tracker that I created for Reserve Entertainment to track basically all of the stories that were in development. I don't know who you are or where you're at in your development process or why this might be something that's interesting to you. I find myself being in a couple different places in development, mainly in producing and writing, and at times directing. And so a lot of times what will end up happening is I either am producing, so I have multiple things that are in development, or I'm involved with development on multiple things, or I'm writing one or two things that are in development. And so basically being able to have to track and follow through what that process is like. And so that comes in episode 3 or course 3. There'll be a downloadable tracker, as well as we'll talk through kind of the way that it got developed with Reserve and then how we use it. And it'll be very helpful if you're a producer and potentially even if you're a writer, if you're just trying to keep track of some of the stuff that you're currently working on or thinking about, right? There's a book tab in there as well for books that we were sent, like, hey, do you want to develop this? Do you want to make this into a project? And so that I'm going over that. Then I've got a quick small section called development hell. It's a term that I think that a lot of people use in this industry, but I wanted to kind of define it and also try to be a light of encouragement to the creative out there who might feel like they are in some level of development hell and that something just isn't getting off the ground and it's highly frustrating, which I've been there a lot. And you'll see that through my case study on a project that I worked on for a long time and kind of where it ended up, what it felt like kind of ended up in a graveyard. And so then we're going to go over that. And then lastly, I got a little bonus episode in there, just kind of talking through some of the books, podcasts, things that I have been very helpful to me that are out on the internet, that they're either free or, they're a cheap book that you can get that you can grow in your craft, and things that were really helpful to me. And so this is something I just thought of recently because, again, I'm actually currently even developing a pilot for a client, which we might talk about in another episode. But basically, I have had to navigate development pretty much by myself for the last 10 years, right? And I didn't really know what it was, and I didn't know how to navigate it always. And I've had to kind of it feels kind of like you're tubing down a river that has a lot of rocks in it, and you're just kind of bouncing back and forth. And so I wanted to offer some of just my journey, my process, some of my thoughts. Am I the voice on development and the development process? No. But I have learned a lot from my mentors and the people that I've been around and I've gotten to work with. And I hope to just kind of lend that to you and hopefully a resource to you and trying to figure out like what are best practices? How do I even get started? A lot of times it's like we have ideas, like I've got a great idea for a story, but I don't even know how to get it started. How do I even develop this thing out? How do you get financing? Now, this isn't necessarily a financing story, but there is going to be an episode on the transitional process from developing a great story into how do I get it actually made. And then we're actually going to have other courses because there's some stuff behind the scenes in the works here at the Stampede Digital, which is my company, and Skip Film School, that there's going to be more courses going into the depths of actually some of the processes that we're currently going through and things that we're doing. Can't talk about all of them yet, but maybe even by the time you watch this, they're already on there, right? By the time, depending on when you're joining us in the Skip Film School journey, some of these other courses might actually already be on there, and that'll be a happy day. So development, let's just quickly define it. What is development? Development is really the beginning stages of any sort of production, even if it's a commercial, right? It's film, it's television, but even if it's a commercial, it is the very beginning stages of the process. We have an idea, and we have to be able to articulate that idea, be able to develop exactly what the story points are, what the beats are, what's the product we're selling, what's our offer, right? It's that's the development phase, right? It happens even in product development. It happens in, I have a new hairbrush. Okay, well, we've got to develop it. I hate my hairbrush, right? I hated my hairbrush so much, I just cut off all of my hair, right? No. So what is that product? And then we got to develop it. Okay, how do I make it? How do I, manufacture it? And then through that development process, you're going to hit different points, because in our process as video production, it's this weird clash. And this is something that's was very helpful to me in the last few years that I've learned, is that I grew up learning that it was an art form. And so what we're developing is the story. We're developing the look. We're developing the shots, get all the shot list stuff together. Like, that's what we're developing. But then as I did that, and I'll go through that again on the next episode, but as I did that, I started to realize that I was missing the business side of it. I was completely missing the business side of the development. So I could tell you about my characters, my story, the impact, the theme, why even the world needs to hear this story, how it's going to move people's hearts. I knew all of those beats. I knew the tone, the comps, what the comparable movies to it, right? I knew all of those things, which again, all of that is development, right? That's all a part of that development process. But the part that I was missing was the business side of it. Like, how much is this going to cost, right? What's the budget? What's the lowest amount of money that I can make this for? Can I make it for $500? Probably not. I can't live off of $500. What's the least amount that I could, how much is this going to cost? Where am I going to get that money? What's the return on investment for investors? I started even doing development on a real story. Well, optioning to be able to get the script made, to then what is optioning, right? What does buy rights look like? Oh, snap. We're actually going to develop this as a reality TV show, or it's going to be a docuseries. Like, we need to get permission from the people to be able to interview them and tell the story. And what is that? Like, there's all of the legalities. And if you don't have all of that stuff tied up in the development process, when you start going into pre-production and production, it's going to get really messy. Then you get into post and distribution, and you can't even get it out, because no network, studio, company, business person, they're going to look at the legalities of this, and this is too much of a mess. And it doesn't matter how great my theme was, how impactful the character arcs, all of those aspects don't end up even mattering if you don't have all of that kind of stuff together. And if it feels or sounds overwhelming, it completely is. And let me tell you that this course, it will not solve all of these problems for you. If anything, it's going to give you more questions. And as you will learn about me and a lot of the stuff that we offer, is that my hope is that it actually does stir up those questions, because I think a lot of people, and I know that I was one of them, I moved off to LA. I went on this journey to become a filmmaker in this industry. And I just didn't know everything that it was going to take. And it becomes even more overwhelming if I don't have a heart position of I'm learning, and what is this process going to be like? How can I grow? Always asking questions. I was just telling my son this last week, he's about to start a course, an athletic thing that he's doing. He loves to rock climb. And I just told him, you got to go to your coach, and you got to ask at the end of every class, between this Thursday and next Thursday, coach, what do I need to work on? What do I need to do in my training to be better by next Thursday? And I think that I didn't always have that heart position. I felt a little bit like I knew everything, that it was a little more simplified than what I realized when I actually got into this industry. And so again, this is development. So this is, again, there's multiple layers to this thing, obviously. To the Skip Film School thing. We've got other courses that are coming in different fields, but this is going to isolate. This isn't necessarily going to help get you a job. This is specifically isolating the process that I've learned through myself and through some of my mentors, the process of taking that idea and then developing it out into something that hopefully can then be funded and then ultimately made, and how that development process works. So this is your kind of intro. Hopefully that's helpful. Again, this is not pre-production. This is also not even this is not financing. We're going to talk a little bit about that towards the end of this, but really this is like, I have this idea about the first man on the moon. And I read this book, and I felt like this book, my buddies wrote a book, and I felt like it would be such an incredible movie. What do I do with it? What does that process look like? And this is what that process looks like.